G'day members, I am Kenny Koala who lives down under in my native country Australia. My mates and I have come to see what's going on with this old car. The nice man who owns the car says that he will take me for a ride after he tells you how he restored it.
Thank you, Kenny. My name is Bob Trevan from down in Australia. You've seen one of our unique icons down here, and what you have here is an endangered species. They're probably both endangered species because one is destined for the zoo and the other ones are destined for museums, I think. This is about the only K model that's being used in the world to rally and for general use, and I'm fairly proud of that. Admittedly, I've had to do a lot of modifications to the car, hidden modifications to make it a usable car, and that is what I'll talk about in a few moments. So, this is car number 2. Probably is one of the 3 cars that were built for the New York Motor Show, and it's destined to Australia through the fact that it was documented coming from the New York Motor Show to the Northways Ford dealer in New York, and then shipped out as being the first car that Ford Canada actually shipped to Australia. So it probably did its own demonstrations in Australia before it was purchased by a well-known family, and it was chauffeur driven from then on till it eventually finished its days in a fairly sad state down near the city of Newcastle in Australia. To make this car a usable car, I've had to do modifications, and a lot of them, firstly, was the overheating problem that Ford had with the K model. He experimented with different radiators, and the first few cars had no fan. It relied on the fan in the flywheel. So what I've done here is let some air through the side. I've put a false sided on the bonnet with vents in it, and that has helped the overheating problem considerably. You may note that the radiator is what they call the Camelback Radiator. It is unique to the first 6 cars. Any other car you've seen pictured doesn't wear that radiator. It was an add-on from an experimental narrow radiator that they used, which is documented. And this piece here is probably an early style of what we have now as an expansion tank on a radiator. The water, because of the amount of water in the radiator and engine, expanded, and that was used to expand into without losing that water. So the idea was good. Apart from that, it's an ideal heating system for when it flows through here on a wet, windy, cold day. The heat off that radiator is very nice. The next thing I had to modify was the chassis. The very light chassis they had terrible consequences to the engine block. It used to twist and break the lugs off the engine, and that was probably the highest mortality rate that a K model suffered, with that engine breakup. I've hidden the chassis inside the chassis that you can't see it. The next thing I've had to do is put an underdrive in the drive line. Now that's a gear lever there that operates an underdrive planetary system to try and take the pressure off putting it into low gear. The 6.8 litre engine is just too powerful for that transmission, and it self-destructed. So what I've done is put an underdrive so I can keep that car in top gear as long as possible. That's been very good and successful. The other modification I had to do was to eliminate the torque from that 6.8 litre engine of twisting the actual diff housing off the torque tube. So it had previously been done from its, I can see that it had actually happened at some stage, but I built a clamp to go around the diff housing and around the torque tube to stop that ever happening again. So there's 3 or 4 modifications that I did to make this a usable car, and I've done some heavy rallying in it. Beautiful car to drive, as the ad said in 1906, from 5 mile an hour to 50 mile an hour in top gear. Because of the early K model engine block, it had a very small breather. Crankcase pressure was in excess. To try and stop the oil coming up the cam followers and messing the engine, I have put a vacuum pump attached to the breather pipe and hidden down in here to scavenge the air out of that sump. If you'd call it a sump, it's purely just a barrel, like an N model, and that has worked very well. You will see that the exhaust system on the first few cars ran along directly above the alternator at that point, and it cooked that magneto and just was a disaster. After the first 6 cars, they redesigned the manifold and put the intake down there and put the exhaust on top. You may also note that there is 2 plugs per cylinder, which is one for starting and one for the switch over on for running on the magneto. Okay, let's go for a drive. Here's an example of 5 mile an hour to 50 mile an hour. Whoa, I think that was quite fast enough for that area. I hope you all enjoyed that brief talk on Henry's famous Model K. Thank you.